Hey guys, welcome to my 5th official Blu-ray collection video. For those of you who are new to this channel, every 6 months I like to make a video where I show you guys all of my Blu-rays and show you guys the major updates I've gotten. And it's just really fun for me to do and it gets me a lot of views, but at the same time, I do enjoy making them despite how long it takes to do it. And here we are, and over the past 6 months, I have collected so many Blu-rays. I've collected a lot of movies. So, without further ado, I want to get started, but before I do, I just need to say I cannot tell a story for every single one of them. I just can't do that. So, for the sake of time, I am going to remove certain sections out and just, show you guys, and possibly, overlap it with something. I don't know if I'm going to do that with every single one of them, but I'm going to try my best to make it as informative as possible. And as I always like to say, guys, let us get into this. Alright, so we're starting off with 12 Angry Men, only Criterion Collection film I own. I am getting a few others over the course of the next few days, so look forward to that. But guys, 12 Angry Men, fantastic film in black and white. It's truly exhilarating. It's just 12 men sitting in a room arguing, but it is just so compelling. 12 Monkeys, another one of my all-time favorite movies. I need to review this at some point in this channel. Bruce Willis did a really awesome job, but Brad Pitt, man, he just stole the show. 21 Jump Street, of course, the combination of Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill was very unexpected, but I think they did a really good job. And plus, the movie itself. I mean, nobody believed the movie was going to be good, but it was so good that they made a sequel. And I will get 22 Jump Street eventually, I promise, because I like that movie too. Not as much as the first one, but this movie is just awesome. 42, one of my favorite sports movies ever. And 300, my favorite Zack Snyder movie. I think probably the best Zack Snyder movie, because a lot of his other movies really aren't that good. But this movie is pretty damn awesome. And of course, the shots where all the arrows block out the sun, incredible. Act of Valor. A double feature including Air Force One and In the Line of Fire. I'm not a huge fan of Air Force One, except for the line, "Get off my plane," because, of course, Harrison Ford is awesome. The movie itself is just fine for me, but I love In the Line of Fire. I think it's a very underrated 90s thriller. The Alfred Hitchcock collection, including Rear Window, Vertigo, North by Northwest, Psycho, and The Birds. I love Alfred Hitchcock. But to be completely honest with you guys, I am not a fan of Rear Window. I rewatched the movie recently, and I still wasn't a big fan of it. I do find it pretty boring at times. It's very uneventful, and it requires your full attention, but there's just not really much to latch onto, in my opinion. If I had to choose which one is my favorite, it would be between North by Northwest and Psycho. And honestly, they're so different, I really can't choose a favorite. So it really is between the two of them. If I really had to pick my favorite, I guess for rewatchability factor, it'd be North by Northwest, but in terms of filmmaking and how much it inspired other films, it'd have to be Psycho. Alien. Aliens, my favorite. And Alien 3. Good question. Why do I own this movie? I have only seen the assembly cut of it. I have not seen the theatrical version, which I think is the one that's most loathed. But from what I remember from the assembly cut, I actually did like it. I haven't seen the movie in 3 or 4 years. It's been quite a long time, so who knows, maybe my opinion has changed. Another double feature including American History X and A History of Violence. I have yet to watch American History X. Don't kill me. I promise you guys I will. I will see this movie very soon. But I have seen A History of Violence, and I thought that movie was absolutely fantastic. Viggo Mortensen's performance in it, I think, is honestly the best I've ever seen from him. I, of course, love him as Aragorn, but in terms of serious, gritty performances, I mean, he just owned it in this movie. American Sniper. Apocalypse Now. Still haven't seen Redux. I definitely will soon. Apollo 13. Probably my favorite Ron Howard film. And, of course, I need to say rest in peace to Bill Paxton. It's unfortunate that he is no longer with us. Of course, I talked about Aliens, and again, it's like game over, man. It's never game over. It is never game over. But I do love the chemistry between Bill Paxton, Tom Hanks, and Kevin Bacon. those three actors, I mean, you put them in a movie and it's bound to be good. And I really like this movie. Arrival, and speaking of Arrival, the director of it is Denis Villeneuve, and his next movie, Blade Runner 2049, is coming out next month. So I thought I would do a mini-series of all of his American films, Prisoners, Enemy, this film, and Sicario, and you're going to see me talk about his other films as I continue on throughout this video. But yes, I enjoyed the film Arrival. I did not review it, so it makes sense that I actually will do that. I definitely want to rewatch the movie. I've seen it twice, and I'll definitely watch it again. Arthur Christmas, extremely fun Christmas movie, one of my personal favorites. Avengers and Avengers Age of Ultron. I used to like Age of Ultron more, but I think as the years have gone by, the first one is definitely better. Great Scott, the Back to the Future Trilogy, 30th Anniversary Edition. I love the Back to the Future Trilogy. The third movie is not as good as the first two, but I still really enjoy it. That being said, though, I love Back to the Future Part 2 just as much as the first one, and there are times where I actually like it more. I understand the first movie is objectively the best, but if I had to choose a personal favorite, it would probably be Back to the Future Part 2. I love that movie so much. I'm pretty sure most collectors have guilty pleasures, and I do have my fair share of them, and the first one is Battleship. This movie is not good. It's not a good movie, but it is so entertaining to watch. It's such a fun movie that's just dumb, mindless. It knows what it is, and I just have a lot of fun with it, even though Taylor Kitsch is a horrible actor. At least you have Brooklyn Decker, you have someone you can look at, and there's Liam Neeson. Liam Neeson. We're going to talk about Liam Neeson throughout this entire collection. But yeah, I love Liam Neeson, but this movie is just fun. Alright, next series, Batman in its Digibook edition. Batman Returns. The entire Dark Knight trilogy in their Steelbook editions, one of the best purchases I ever made. I'm so happy to have all three of these movies. All three of them are fantastic in my opinion. And lastly, Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice. Many people are wondering why I own this movie. Other people are very happy about it. In my mind, I didn't hate this movie. I didn't absolutely love it. I thought it was fine. It has some genuinely great moments, including the warehouse scene. But it has some downright terrible moments, including the Martha scene, which I actually laughed during that, and I think other people did in the theater as well. So yes, it has really bad parts in it, but it has some good parts in it too that I do enjoy watching. It's okay in the long run. Beetlejuice, classic Tim Burton, is always the best Tim Burton. Gina Davis and Alec Baldwin do a really good job, but of course Michael Keaton, I mean, he just steals the show. But he's only in it for 17 minutes, which is a very short time, but it just proves how memorable he is. Big, a really awesome movie starring Tom Hanks, just awesome. Well, that's just like your opinion, man. The Big Lebowski, classic movie, Steelbook edition, just had to get it. Blade Runner, of course, I'm going to be talking about the original film before 2049 comes out. I'm very excited. I can't wait. And also, the final cut, in my opinion, the best way to watch this movie without Harrison Ford's narration. I think it just makes the world that much more abstract, and it just makes for a more unique experience. The Blind Side, really awesome movie. Glad to have it. Blood Diamonds, super, super underrated movie. Not a lot of people talk about it. Edward Zwick did another fantastic job. I'm going to be talking about The Last Samurai, which is also in this collection. Blood Diamond, man, so underrated. I don't know why people didn't really like this movie. The Blues Brothers, one of my favorite comedies ever. Of course, the last 20 minutes are perfect. The Bourne trilogy, including Identity, Supremacy, and Ultimatum. One of the best trilogies ever, in my opinion. I had so much fun rewatching them last year in preparation for Jason Bourne, which was a disappointment, to be honest. But it was a lot of fun getting to rewatch these movies and realizing just how good they really were. Boys in the Hood, one of my favorite movies ever. So impactful. Braveheart, Freedom. The Breakfast Club, my favorite John Hughes movie, and an amazing teen film in general. The Captain America trilogy. To be completely honest, I'm not a big fan of Civil War. Every time I've watched the movie, I've liked it less and less, which is really sad. I just have a lot of problems with that movie, and I did not think it was that fantastic. That being said, though, The Winter Soldier is, in my opinion, the best of the trilogy by far. I love this movie. I'll never forget the first time I saw it. It was just so amazing. Captain Phillips, I'm the captain now. Carrie in its collector's edition, really fantastic movie. Kind of cheesy and a bit dated, but still a good movie and a pretty good adaptation for the novel. I just need to say one word. Wilson! And that's all you really need to know. This movie makes you care about a volleyball. I mean, seriously, Tom Hanks being stranded on an island by himself is one thing, but making you care about an inanimate object, it's incredible. And speaking of Tom Hanks, Catch Me If You Can, also starring Leonardo DiCaprio, won't be the last time you'll hear his name either. Of course, Catch Me If You Can is in my top 5 most underrated films of all time. Barely anyone talks about it. I have no idea why. It's directed by Steven Spielberg, and it has a great... It's directed by Steven Spielberg and has great performances from both DiCaprio and Hanks, as well as Christopher Walken. It's an amazing movie that not a lot of people talk about. Charade, classic movie. Children of Men, extremely dark dystopian thriller. It's just amazing to watch, and it's just... God, the tone of that movie is just so dark, but every time you watch it, you're just transfixed into this world. The original Cloverfield, and of course 10 Cloverfield Lane, for those of you guys who don't know. 10 Cloverfield Lane was my favorite movie of 2016. It's a movie that just made me fall in love with movies again and realize why I love them. It really just took me places I hadn't gone in a long time, and I really felt like I was just sitting there being shown this world, this small world. But it was just so good. I'll never forget watching it for the first time, just being absolutely blown away with it. And over the past 13 different viewings of it, because I have seen it that many times, I still love it so much. Commando, another guilty pleasure movie. Of course, Schwarzenegger perfect in this role. Dark City, extremely dark movie. Works with the title. The Day After Tomorrow, yet another guilty pleasure, but to be completely honest with you guys, I loved watching this movie as a kid. I watched it with my mother all the time, and in fact, we actually just rewatched the movie about 3 weeks ago or a month ago. And to be completely honest, I think the effects still look really good after 13 years. Again, I'm getting old, guys. 13 years. My God, I love this movie as a kid. Holy Amazeballs, Deadpool. Such a fun movie. I'm very excited for the sequel. It came out of nowhere and just surprised all of us, and now it's the highest grossing R-rated film ever. Demolition Man is another guilty pleasure movie for sure for a lot of people. My mother actually hates this movie. She considers it in the top 5 worst films she has ever seen. But I love this movie. It is so much fun to watch. And of course, the opening explosion is one of the best explosions I have ever seen in my entire life. And it was real. They really did blow up that building, which just makes it all the better. The Die Hard collection, including Die Hard, Die Hard 2, Die Hard with a Vengeance, and Live Free or Die Hard. The only Die Hard movies worth talking about or worth owning. A lot of people say there's a Die Hard 5, but that movie does not exist in my mind. It's just absolutely terrible, and it should never have been made. But in regards to the Die Hard movies, it's an amazing franchise. I love all 4 of them. Die Hard with a Vengeance might actually be my favorite. I love watching Die Hard 3, and in a lot of ways, I do like it more than the first one, even though the first movie is just so close. It's just like bordering on the exact same line. Don't Breathe, very creepy movie. Drive, starring Ryan Gosling, directed by Nicholas Winding Refn. I'm not a huge Refn fan. This is definitely his best movie in my opinion. I did like Bronson, but I do not own that movie currently. Other than that, I have not liked any of his other films, but I do like this movie despite the fact that I do have a lot of problems with it. I think there are too many moments of just pure silence, with characters just staring at each other without saying anything. Honestly, guys, it's just a little too weird for me. Alright, on to Road 2. Easy A, fantastic teen movie. I love watching it. The Age of 17, one of the best movies of last year in my opinion. I related to it so much. I thought the characters were fantastic, especially Erwin, Hayden Sato's character. He reminded me of me in so many ways. Again, great movie. I love watching it. Edward Scissorhands, like I say, classic Tim Burton is the best Tim Burton. And this is my personal favorite of all of his films. I'm pretty sure it's his as well. Because it's really special. And Johnny Depp gives an immaculate, just absolutely believable performance as the character. And young Winona Ryder. So you have two amazing things in this movie. But I just love the feel of it. Erin Brockovich, amazing movie. My favorite Soderbergh film. Escape from New York. Okay, this movie... Oh man, I have so many things I could say about this film. It is just, it's bad, but it's just amazing at the exact same time. It's one of the best movie experiences you'll ever have because you'll be sitting there thinking, what the hell is this? But at the same time, you're like, it's so cool. And Kurt Russell with an eye patch. I mean, movies just don't get better. E.T. Phone Home. That's right, E.T. the Extraterrestrial. I finally own this movie on Blu-ray. I had a VHS of this movie, but I lost it a few years ago. I have no idea where it is. If I find it one day, that'll be amazing. But I finally own the movie on Blu-ray. I'm very happy to. Special movie for sure. Not my favorite Spielberg movie, but the added benefit of an unforgettable score by John Williams and one of the best endings ever. It's just amazing. Sam Raimi's The Evil Dead, even though Evil Dead 2 is my favorite, this movie was only $3.99 at Best Buy, so I thought, why not? And Bruce Campbell's amazing. The Fast and the Furious, my all-time favorite guilty pleasure movie. I can watch this film over and over and over again. It never gets boring for me. I absolutely love watching it. It's not a good movie, but man, is it so entertaining. And also, Too Fast, Too Furious, my second favorite guilty pleasure movie ever. I love the Fast and Furious movies, guys. What can I say? Fast 5, which I consider to be the best of the franchise. I do really like this movie. It is pretty good. And I do own Fast 6 in its Steelbook edition, as well as the Fates of the Furious to Fast 8. I didn't get a chance to review this movie on my channel. I don't really know why. But I did enjoy Fast 8, and that's why I own it. The Fifth Element, awesome movie by Luc Besson. Not gonna mention anything about this movie except it's Fight Club and it's great. You know, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. Forrest Gump, one of the best movies of all time, easily for me. The Fugitive, You Find This Man. Get Out, one of the best movies of this year. Amazing satire by Jordan Peele. He knew what he was doing. Ghostbusters. Ghost in the Shell. Interesting story about Ghost in the Shell. I actually won this movie. They had a special thing going on with Rotten Tomatoes. I got to message them because I actually won this. They had a special poll out, and I had to retweet it and say I wanted the film. And they actually sent me a free copy of this. It's not sponsored, but I thought it was really cool. And I got to see the movie for the very first time, and I really enjoyed it. I'm excited and anticipated to see the new one, even though I've heard very mixed things about it, but this movie was pretty cool. And it's in its exclusive Mondo Steelbook, which is just really cool. The Gift, one of the best movies of 2015. The Godfather, I want to make him an offer he can't refuse. Gone Girl. Good Will Hunting, amazing movie. It turns 20 at the end of this year. I plan to talk about it. Gran Torino. Guardians of the Galaxy, and also Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. The movie just came out on Blu-ray. I still have it in its slipcover. I usually like to keep them in their slipcovers for the first month and then take them out. And also, guys, if you're wondering where I keep my slipcovers, I do keep them in a special container so they don't get messed up. And, you know, who knows, if they become valuable in the future, I'll sell them. But anyways, Guardians of the Galaxy and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 are excellent MCU movies. I enjoy watching both of them. I loved Volume 2. I don't know if a lot of people loved it as much as the first movie. I almost did. Very, very close. The Grand Budapest Hotel, super fun movie. Hacksaw Ridge, one of last year's best movies and one of the best war films I've ever seen. Andrew Garfield's performance was absolutely phenomenal. And The Hateful Eight, Tarantino. Won't be the last time I'll talk about him. This movie is just insane, but it's just insane in a Tarantino way. Heat, my favorite Michael Mann film. Heathers. The first Hellboy, I actually like this movie more than the second one. Hell or High Water, one of last year's best films, and of course, the first time that I ever liked Chris Pine in a movie. That's very important, because I've not been a fan of Chris Pine before that, but he really showed himself in this movie, and I loved his performance, as well as Ben Foster, too. Jeff Bridges, when you can understand what he's saying, he was good, too. Hidden Figures, amazing movie. I loved watching it. Very sentimental, a little bit overdramatic at times, but still a really great movie. I do have the Hobbit trilogy. Even though these movies aren't necessarily that great or better than Lord of the Rings, I do really enjoy watching the second one. I do think Desolation of Smaug is easily the best one of the trilogy. Then the first one, and then the third one, which was, it's just okay. Home Alone, classic movie in every regard. You guys give up, or you're thirsty for more. Hot Fuzz, of course, Edgar Wright's second masterpiece, and we're going to talk about all three of his other films throughout this video. Hot Fuzz, again, amazing movie. Loved watching it so much. The Hunger Games, Catching Fire, my favorite of the Hunger Games series. The Hunt for Red October, classic movie, gotta have it. Inception, one of the best movies of the decade. I, of course, love Christopher Nolan. I'm going to talk about a lot of his other films, especially ones coming up very soon. Independence Day, I love this movie. I don't care what anyone says. It is one of my all-time favorite movies. Corny, yes. Dated, yes. Cheesy, somewhat. But still, amazing movie. I love watching it every July 4th. The Indiana Jones Collection, of course, containing, give me one second, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Temple of Doom, which I really do love, just as much as the first one in my mind. The Last Crusade, my favorite of the Indiana Jones films. And Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which I actually still do enjoy. I know a lot of people really hate this movie, but honestly, I don't think it's a bad movie. It's not a great one, but it's not a bad one either. Inglourious Basterds, another Tarantino film. $5.99 at Best Buy, had to pick it up. Insomnia and Interstellar, two movies directed by Christopher Nolan. I thought I'd just put them in the same thing. Insomnia is my least favorite of his, even though it's still a really good movie. I just don't love it as much and doesn't have the same replay value, but it's still a really good film. And Interstellar, the movie that people just love to hate on for some reason, I love this movie, and I love the movie's ending too. I think it's actually really good, but that's just my opinion. Another guilty pleasure is the film In Time. It's not that great of a movie, but I still do enjoy watching it. It Follows, super creepy movie. John Wick, not John Wick 2. In all honesty, I didn't really like that movie that much. I love the first film, though, and especially the nightclub scene. Oh, yeah. Joyride, one of the most underrated movies of all time. Jurassic Park, the only great Jurassic Park movie. Kill Bill Volume 1. I do not have Volume 2. When I was going to go look for it at Best Buy, it unfortunately was not there, but I will get it eventually. Still, Kill Bill Volume 1, not Tarantino's best effort, but it's definitely the popcorn-filled, fun type movie. And for that, it is pretty good. Kingsman, I am very, very excited for the sequel because I really enjoyed this movie, especially that church scene. Just perfection. King Kong Pop Art Edition, the 2005 version. My favorite version of King Kong is this one. I loved watching it as a kid. It was one of the first PG-13 films I ever got to see. I was only 8 years old, so I felt kind of special about it. I was like, yes, I'm watching a PG-13 movie. But it's still really good. It is overlong, but I still do really love it. La La Land, the movie that won Best Picture for 120 seconds. You guys know I loved this movie when I first saw it. It was a truly magical experience. I loved watching it. It was very special to me. LA Confidential. La Femme Nikita, one of the few foreign films I have, but this movie is awesome, and Luc Besson, once again, loves his badass chicks with guns. The Last Samurai, one of the most underrated films of all time. Leon the Professional, once again, Luc Besson, badass chick with a gun. And in this case, it was 12-year-old Natalie Portman who absolutely blew us all away with her performance. Now onto the third row, starting off with the Lethal Weapon collection. It was only $13.99 at Best Buy. Could not turn that deal down. Limitless. Haven't seen this movie in a few years. I might not love it as much as I did when I saw it back then. Even though it wasn't that long ago, I still just want to call it back then. But when I first saw it, I enjoyed it, so that's why I picked it up. Lincoln. Live, Die, Repeat, Edge of Tomorrow, or Edge of Tomorrow. I like to call it Edge of Tomorrow, but it says Live, and that starts with L, so that's why it's in this section. Nevertheless, though, Edge of Tomorrow is a really smart science fiction film, and it is the movie that made me realize that trailers could mismarket their movies, where they might absolutely suck and look awful, but the movie itself was just so good that it outweighed that. And Edge of Tomorrow was the perfect example of that. And ever since I saw this movie, I have judged trailers differently. Logan, one of the best movies of this year. Not just one of the best superhero movies ever made, but truly one of the best movies of 2017. This film absolutely blew me away. It is an excellent film, and if you haven't watched it, please do. Also, check out the noir version, because that is awesome too. Looper, fantastic movie until the last 5 minutes. I'm not crazy about the way the film ends. I don't think it makes a lot of sense. But everything leading up to that is just excellent. The Lord of the Rings trilogy, I mean, what fantasy fan does not own this? I like the extended editions somewhat, but I feel like they do dwindle the film's runtime and, of course, overall pacing, because all three movies are very long, but I do love the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Very special films for me. The Mad Max trilogy, as well as Mad Max Fury Road. Mad Max Fury Road is one of the best action movies of this decade. I'm very excited to see where George Miller takes the universe next, because he was 70 years old when he directed this movie. And it's like, you never know it, but it's truly amazing. And it's the franchise that he really started, so it's very special. The Magnificent Seven, in my opinion, the most underrated film of 2016. I thought it was fantastic. I had a lot of fun watching this movie. It was shot on film, and it had an amazing cast involving my bromance, Chris Pratt, awesome dude, Denzel Washington as well. Man, fantastic actors in this movie. I really enjoyed it. Man of Steel. The Martian, absolute masterpiece, my favorite movie of 2015. I thought it was just absolutely amazing. I can watch this movie over and over again. It's so much fun. I have 2 copies of The Matrix. One of them is an exclusive Digibook edition, and the other one is the exclusive Steelbook. This was given to me by a friend. Thank you very much, sir. He does not want his name to be mentioned, which is absolutely fine with me. But The Matrix, one of my favorite movies of all time. I'll never forget seeing this film for the first time and just being absolutely blown away by it, as well as all the other 25 to 35 other times I've seen it. I love the first Matrix. Memento, another one of my all-time favorite movies. This film is just brilliant and just as perfect of a movie as you can get, in my opinion. Men in Black 3, it's okay. Minority Report, an incredibly underrated film, again from Spielberg. And again, this movie came out in 2002, just like Catch Me If You Can. What is it with that year in Spielberg? He made 2 incredible films that many people just don't talk about for some reason. But they should, because it is an awesome film, and Tom Cruise does a great job. And speaking of Tom Cruise, I own the first 4 Mission Impossible films. Not Rogue Nation, because in all honesty, I did not enjoy that film that much. I thought it was just okay. That being said, though, Ghost Protocol is my favorite, followed by the first one. And many people call the first one boring, but I think it's one of the most suspenseful films I've ever seen in my entire life. I think it's amazing. Then MI3, and then MI2. This is not really all that good. And also Moonlight, the stolen Best Picture winner, or stolen, I just like to put that in quotes. I remember seeing this movie at an art cinema near me, and this was way before it got all the accolades and all the major critical acclaim. Like, it got acclaim, but it didn't start, like, winning major awards when I saw the film. I remember liking the film until the third act. I feel like the third act of this movie just isn't as good as the first two, and that's what made it kind of disappointing, because the first two acts of this movie, man, did they hit you over the head, especially the second act. That second act was just absolutely phenomenal in every single way. The Mummy, in its exclusive Steelbook edition, I love this movie. I've never understood why people haven't really liked it that much. I think it's just an amazing adventure movie that I really enjoy watching. It does have an Indiana Jones-like feel to it, but I still really enjoy this movie. It's got a great cast, a good story, and a good villain. It has all the key components you need to make a great movie, and I do really enjoy it. The Nice Guys, a huge surprise last year coming to us from Shane Black, whose previous movie is one of the worst films I've ever seen. I hate Iron Man 3, but luckily, he made a really good movie again, and I was very happy about that. Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe have amazing chemistry in this. No Country for Old Men, a masterpiece and one of my all-time favorite movies now. I absolutely love watching it. I've seen it at least 5 times since last year when I first saw it. It's a really just brilliant, bleak film that is just, it's amazing in almost every way. Non-Stop, another really fun action movie starring Liam Neeson. I really enjoyed this film. It's a lot of fun. Oblivion. The Patriot. Patriots Day. And Patriot Games in its exclusive Steelbook edition. The original Planet of the Apes, one of my favorite films of all time. Predator, another one of my all-time favorite movies, and again, Schwarzenegger was perfect in the role. The movie is just phenomenal from start to finish. I love watching Predator. The Prestige, another great film directed by Christopher Nolan. The Princess Bride, I don't know if I'm the first one to say this, but I do think the movie is kind of overrated. It's still a really good movie, but it's not absolutely amazing as everyone has told me for years, or had told me for years, because I didn't see this movie until I was, I think, 12, and I didn't absolutely love it when I first watched it. It's a fun movie, but it's not like an all-time favorite for me. Prisoners, in my opinion, the best Denis Villeneuve film. Love this film. It absolutely disturbed the hell out of me when I first saw it. I'll never forget that. It's an amazing film. Prometheus. Yes, I do own a Blu-ray copy of Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, despite the fact that I do have it in his classics collection. Still, though, I love this movie. Psycho is definitely one of my favorite films, and it's, in my opinion, the best horror film. Not only because of what it inspired, but because it set a specific standard, and the twists and turns that just came up and were very unexpected, which I won't spoil in case if you haven't seen the film, which you definitely should. Pulp Fiction, my favorite Quentin Tarantino film, and I'm pretty sure that's the extremely popular opinion. But yes, Pulp Fiction is definitely a masterpiece. Raging Bull, amazing film. Real Steel, really fun boxing movie. I loved watching it when I was younger. Reservoir Dogs, another Quentin Tarantino film. The Revenant, have only seen the movie in its entirety once, and that was in theaters. I've seen bits and pieces of it later, but I definitely need to rewatch it at some point. Rise of the Planet of the Apes and Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Give me a couple more months and I will own War for the Planet of the Apes, making this one of the best trilogies of all time. And I've actually had the pleasure of seeing all of them in theaters, which is really cool. RoboCop, Dead or Alive, You're Coming With Me. Rocky, the most inspirational film of all time for me. And the Rush Hour trilogy with a really special artwork, which is actually really cool. I love the Rush Hour trilogy. I grew up with all three of these movies. Even though the third one is not really that good, I still do enjoy watching it, but the first two in my mind are classics. Safe House. The Sandlot, childhood favorite. I love this movie. Saving Private Ryan, the best war film I have ever seen. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, another Edgar Wright masterpiece. I love this film. And of course, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, my favorite actress. I just absolutely love her. So she makes a lot of this movie happen. And it's really fun. It's a really fun movie. But of course, having her in it is just a beautiful addition to anything. Scream, my favorite Wes Craven film, and my favorite horror movie. Even though it makes fun of horror movies, and in a lot of ways it is spoofing them, it does it in a very clever way while still maintaining the thrills and the chills. A triple feature, including the films Seven, Insomnia, and The Devil's Advocate. I have Insomnia, I talked about it. Devil's Advocate is a really interesting film. Keanu Reeves' performance in it is not really that great, but Al Pacino, he's amazing in it. But I actually watched Seven for the first time last month, on July 7th, so it was 7/7. But yeah, this movie absolutely blew me away. I was absolutely terrified. It's definitely in the top 5 most disturbing films I've ever seen. Shutter Island and The Aviator. The Shawshank Redemption. I mean, need I say more? My second favorite film of all time. I love The Shawshank Redemption with all my heart. And Morgan Freeman needs to narrate my life. He needs to narrate everything because everyone's happy when he narrates. Shaun of the Dead, yet another Edgar Wright masterpiece. Once again, a really fun film that you can just look at from so many different layers. It's a comedy, it's a horror film, it's a romance. There's so many great genres intertwined in the movie, and it feels cohesive. Here's Johnny. Of course, The Shining. You can't discuss the movie without talking about that line specifically. It is my favorite Stanley Kubrick movie. It's a film that I actually got to see in theaters last year. For those of you who don't know, Fathom Events did this very special thing where they re-released the film in theaters for 2 days. I went to go see it with a friend of mine, and we just had an incredible time. The theater was actually pretty packed. A lot of people went to go see it. It was a really awesome thought that the first time I got to see the movie was in theaters. I saw it a second time and I loved it just as much, if not more. There's so much to grasp with this movie. And I do think I actually like it more than the book. Sicario, another Denis Villeneuve film. The Silence of the Lambs. I will watch this movie very soon. I have yet to see it. I've heard nothing but amazing things. Please don't kill me in the comments section. I promise you I will watch it. The Sixth Sense, in my opinion, the best M. Night Shyamalan film. I do own Skyfall, and anyways, Skyfall. Skyfall is my favorite James Bond movie, and speaking of James Bond, because I love him so much, I have the entire collection on Blu-ray, which I don't really need to show you guys. You just know that all the Bond films are in here. And also, if you look here, I have every single James Bond book by Ian Fleming in their reprinted Penguin edition, which is really awesome. I've read all the books. I'm a huge fan of James Bond. He's very special to me. But Spectre, Snowpiercer, one of the best movies of this decade in my opinion. So original. I can't believe they pulled it off, and it was so good. Spaceballs. They've gone to Plaid. Where the hell are we? Paris? I could spend the next 5 minutes quoting this movie. It's so memorable, and in my mind, it is my favorite comedy. I have seen this movie so many times, and I doubt I could go a full 2 minutes without laughing my ass off. The Spider-Man trilogy, the first 2 films are so important to my childhood, especially Spider-Man 2. As you guys know, that is my favorite Marvel movie, and it still might be my favorite comic book movie. The only competition is The Dark Knight. But I love Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 3 is not bad, but it's not that great either. It's got some really good scenes, and it has some really good action sequences, but then it has the really bad moments like Tobey Maguire dancing, and that's just way too far. The Social Network, amazing movie by David Fincher, just awesome. I love it. The Sorcerer's Apprentice, childhood, guys. Source Code, phenomenal film, extremely underrated. Jake Gyllenhaal and Michelle Monaghan, awesome performances. Split. James McAvoy's performance in this movie is absolutely amazing. I also liked Anya Taylor-Joy, and this is a good return to form for M. Night Shyamalan. Spotlight, one of the most emotionally intense films I have ever seen. I remember going to the movies to see this with my mother, and when the film ended, I just felt broken. I felt sick to my stomach. I could barely move. That's how affected I was when I saw this film. I gave it an A+, and it won Best Picture, which I thought was really amazing, but it just deserved it. Star Trek and Star Trek Into Darkness, these are films that both my parents bought because they are Star Trek fans. I don't give a crap about Star Trek. I'm not really a fan. Of course, I'm a fan of the other major science fiction franchise, Star Wars. And if you guys don't know, Star Wars, the original Star Wars, is the movie that got me into the world of filmmaking. I probably would not be sitting here talking to you guys about movies had it not been for Star Wars. It's so meaningful and impactful in my life, and I just wouldn't be the same person if it wasn't for Star Wars. Empire Strikes Back is the best, but that first movie will always be the most special. I love Return of the Jedi as well. There's a lot of hate for that movie, but hey, I still absolutely love it. In terms of the prequels, Phantom Menace I think is okay. It has some pretty awesome moments, especially with the Darth Maul fight and the pod race. Attack of the Clones I do think is easily the worst. I do like the Jedi arena fight scene. That scene's actually pretty cool. Also, everything with Ewan McGregor I think is actually pretty good. And Revenge of the Sith, I actually really do like Revenge of the Sith. I really don't understand the hate for it. I do think that it definitely has bad moments. It's got George Lucas dialogue written all over it in certain scenes. But I do think 75% of the time I do like it. And I have The Force Awakens and Rogue One. The Steven Spielberg collection, including the films Duel, The Sugarland Express, Jaws, 1941, E.T., Always. I've yet to see Always. I will eventually. Jurassic Park and The Lost World. I do own Jurassic Park, E.T., and Jaws, but it just came with the collection. I did like the film Duel. I did not like The Sugarland Express. I hated 1941. That is definitely Spielberg's worst film in terms of all the movies I've seen from him, which I think is everything except for Always, so I'll need to check that out. Straight Outta Compton, one of the best movies of 2015. Taken, of course this movie is special for me. I absolutely love it. It proved that you could have an older actor be so convincing in a kick-ass role and you believe that he could kill you with his pinky finger. Liam Neeson just made the role. He made it happen. And even though 2 is not good and 3 is just absolute crap, he is definitely the best part of all 3 movies. You can really tell that he is putting in an effort in all 3 films. But the first movie is, without a single shred of doubt, the best. I love the first one. Taxi Driver, absolute classic, gotta have it. Alright. The Terminator, love it. Terminator 2, my favorite movie of all time, and its exclusive Steelbook edition. I am so happy to own this. And Terminator 3, it has some okay parts in it. I don't absolutely hate the movie, but it's not really all that good. Still, though, there are parts of this movie that I do enjoy. Thor: The Dark World, have this because of my mom. I think that's really all I need to know. The Adventures of Tintin. Titanic. I love this movie. I'm not a fan of romance movies, but I just dig this one. It's awesome. Top Gun, Total Recall, one of the best sci-fi action films ever made. Unbreakable, my second favorite M. Night Shyamalan film, right behind The Sixth Sense. I fell in love with this movie. I rewatched it in preparation for Split, another M. Night Shyamalan film. Unbroken in its Steelbook edition. Unknown, another cool Liam Neeson film. The Untouchable is one of my favorite movies ever. I love Brian De Palma. I love his style of filmmaking. And he once again proves that he really could make an awesome film. The cast in this movie is fantastic, especially with Kevin Costner. And, of course, the one and only Sean Connery. What are you prepared to do? The Usual Suspects, another one of my favorite films. War Games. I want to thank my friend Eric for buying me this Blu-ray. Thank you very much, buddy. You are awesome. I love this movie. It definitely is dated, of course, with all the, original computer effects and such, but I still love this movie. The suspense is just awesome. It's always there. West Side Story, my favorite musical. Whiplash, one of my favorite movies of this decade. It's as perfect a movie as you can get. Damien Chazelle directed the hell out of this movie, and he also made La La Land. The man is at the top of his game, and I hope he keeps making movies like these because we need them. The World's End, another masterpiece by Edgar Wright, and in my opinion, it's still my favorite movie of his. The movie made such a huge impact on me when I first watched it. I was 14 years old. I saw it around the same time I saw Prisoners, and I just love this movie. I've seen it at least 25 times in its entirety, and it just never gets old. World War Z. And now on to my final series, which are the X-Men films. X2, X-Men United, my favorite X-Men movie. X-Men First Class, another really awesome X-Men film. The Wolverine, super underrated. I actually really enjoy this movie. And X-Men Apocalypse in its Steelbook edition. I loved this movie when I first saw it, and even though I don't like it as much now, I still really do enjoy it. I think it is pretty underrated. I liked it more than Days of Future Past, and that's a very unpopular opinion because a lot of people love Days of Future Past, and I really enjoyed it, but I hated the ending. I absolutely hated the way the movie ended. I was so upset that I think it really hurt my thoughts on the rest of the movie, which I did enjoy. I'll get Days of Future Past eventually. And last but not least, Zootopia, a really fun Disney movie that just was way better than it ever needed to be, or really should have been. It was so good, and it tackled a lot of important themes that are so relevant in today's world. It's a really good movie, and everyone should watch it. It's just great. So there you guys have it. That was yet another Blu-ray collection video from mine. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. Comment your thoughts down in the comment section below. List any movies you think I should still collect because I'm still in the process of doing so. I got some new Blu-rays that I didn't include in this video because I literally just got them. But I will make a separate video talking about those. Anyways, guys, thank you so much as always for watching. I really appreciate all your love and support. I love making these videos because they're very popular, and I know you guys really enjoy watching them. So anyways, thank you so much as always for watching, and stay tuned for next February for part 6.